It's Monday, I'm back from the gym, I've had a pizza. Let's talk about how bad I did last week. Welcome back, everybody. This is Weekly Navel-Gazing. I'm trying to look at what I read last week, the videos I did last week, what I plan to read this week, and if I have plans for videos this week. So, let's go. Cheers. Alright, we're following the usual thing. I'll talk about what I read first, and then we'll see where this all will be going today. I read Hyperion. Now, I finished Babel by R.F. Kuang, and I enjoyed it. And then I went straight into reading Hyperion by Dan Simmons. And once I finished that one, I went straight into reading Fall of Hyperion by Dan Simmons. And yeah, I also did a quick reread of The Last Continent by Terry Pratchett for our ongoing Discworld read-along, because we had our discussion yesterday. And yes, these are my fourth reads of Fall of Hyperion and Hyperion. So yeah, also rereads. And that's where I am right now. I'm almost done with Fall of Hyperion, and I plan to finish it today or tomorrow, which kind of leads us into what I plan to read this week. And I guess it'll be Endymion and Rise of Endymion by Dan Simmons, and who knows beyond that, because I am somewhat struggling with all kinds of things. We'll talk about that later on. So, Rise of Endymion and Endymion are the plans for like the next couple of days. Those are fairly big-ish books, I guess. So it'll probably take a couple of days. So yeah, that's my reading plans, as far as I can tell. I might even, get to read something else. We will see. So videos. Yeah, I did make some videos last week. Actually 3, I guess, which seems to be sort of where I'm at right now, with doing 3 videos plus the weekly thing. That's 4 videos. I guess I'm good with that. So first of all, there was the video on the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. And I think I made a bunch of points that are important when talking about this wonderful trilogy, which you should go and read or reread or reread again, because it's good. It's very good. And then I did obviously do a exhaustive discussion of what I thought of Babel by R.F. Kuang. And that one also, I felt, went fairly well. All things considered, I think I pointed out most of the things that I feel make this book worthwhile reading, while not, glossing over the flaws that are definitely in this book. And that's what I also made a video about. And then I didn't do anything for 2 days, and went and did my Thinky video on Saturday, which was about where BookTube is currently going, or trends in BookTube, or how BookTube ended up being the thing that it is currently, possibly moving further in that direction. Something I've been, thinking about a lot before, and I finally managed to make that video. It took me 4 tries to do that, and I'm fairly happy with the result. Got a lot of views, got a lot of comments. Thank you everyone who actually went and commented on that. I'm really, really thankful for that, and I feel the discussion we've had down there has been very productive so far, and I'm obviously hoping that more people will comment and we'll keep on talking about this, because, it's important. So I'm fairly happy with that. There are things in there that I could have probably said more clearly, or expanded the thing even further, and that's just the danger of how I make videos, that sometimes things get left out, because obviously I don't write a script, and I sometimes forget stuff that I plan to say when I'm recording, and that's what happened there in parts. But overall I'm very happy with the results, and we will see how that will continue, because I'm pretty sure I will make more videos on the general state of reading, of performative reading, and all these other things, because, those are just things that I think about a lot when I'm reading or not reading, or, all these things that I do when I do things. So, what kind of videos do I plan to make this week? Well, As I said, we talked about The Last Continent. That's book 22 in the Discworld series in publication order yesterday. And that means I'll make a video on The Last Continent, either today for release tomorrow or tomorrow morning for release tomorrow. So there we go. That's one video for this week settled. And I think it's a more accessible Rincewind book in a lot of ways, and that's certainly what I will try to focus on in my discussion of the book. The next one will then be Carpe Jugulum, however you pronounce it. I mean, obviously, I would pronounce it more like German Latin, which would be Carpe Jugulum, but that one. It's book 23. It's a witch's book, and it has vampires, as you may be able to. Deduce by the title. And we'll have a discussion about it on the 16th of October? Yeah. 16th of October. So if you feel like joining us for a discussion of that, join the Unabridged Burners Discord server and join our group call where we just, talk about all the good things and all the bad things in a specific Discworld book. Would be fun. So yeah, that's sort of where I am with videos. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, I definitely will make videos on Hyperion and Dan Simmons. I said that last week. I'm aware of that. We will see. I'm still thinking about how to structure that, and that's sort of where we, move on into like the general me rambling part of these weekly Navel-Gazings. Because I'm still wondering how to make the Hyperion and Endymion videos. There are, of course, 4 books in that series, and then there's a second series, like a duology. Is that even like the correct word? I feel like I'm not a linguist, but isn't like trilogy? Doesn't that actually come from like the Greek? Whereas duology seems to come from like the Latin. I'm kind of confused there. Anyway, let's not go there. My point is, there are 4 books in this series by Dan Simmons, and I have read all of them before. I do think there's something worth criticizing in these books that is sort of hidden underneath the dazzling display that Dan Simmons puts out there, and I feel that's important to talk about. Now, I do also feel that there is something to be had in just looking at those different elements of Dan Simmons' progress as a science fiction writer from Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion to Endymion and Rise of Endymion, moving on to Olympus and Ilium, it's the other way around, Ilium and Olympus, and then finally culminating, so to speak, in Flashback, which is a terrible, terrible, terrible novel that has no literary value whatsoever, and I'm usually careful with these statements. Let me just tell you, it's bad. It's vile, it's stupid, and it goes nowhere. I was thinking about maybe making a video on Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion, then making a video on Endymion, Rise of Endymion, and then making one on Olympus and Ilium, and finally one on Flashback, to maybe trace the evolution or devolution, probably in this case, the decline of Dan Simmons as a writer from a conservative libertarian to, well, hate-spewing racist, basically. And to look at like how these things may or may not be rooted in, we can find traces of that showing up in Hyperion and how that kind of progresses and how we can maybe map that on all kinds of, things. Doing like a full-on analysis, and I think that would be like 4 videos, I guess. One for Hyperion, Rise of and Fall of Hyperion, one for Endymion, Rise of Endymion, one for Olympus, Ilium, I always say it wrong, and one final for Flashback where we tie it all together. I would love to do that, but it feels like a lot of work, and it feels like I might just actually, lose interest in the middle, or just forget stuff because of the way I'm working, the way I'm doing these videos. So we will see if I can actually do that. And then it also would be like, I don't know if anyone's interested in that, because looking at like how Hyperion is usually talked about on BookTube, it's usually, wow, it's the best science fiction book ever. It's probably almost as good as Dune, which is obviously beyond criticism. You know what I mean? And I feel there is more to be said. But also going like, hey, look, here's a conservative author becoming a right-wing nut job, feels like a strong political claim. And there is obviously a discussion to be had on, people not people actively avoiding political statements on BookTube. Now, I've never done that. I feel like people watching my videos kind of know where I stand politically. It's far to the left, but you know what I mean. So we will see how much of that will happen. I mean, especially since Dan Simmons is still alive. He's a still working author. He seems apparently has a book planned for next year, which kind of scares me. But yeah, we will see if I manage to do that in a way that where I feel that I'm doing it justice. Otherwise, I'll just, do the Hyperion thing, because there's enough to be talked about in Hyperion. Yeah, there's like more things, and I feel like ideally, I could probably make that Hyperion Fall of Hyperion video for Wednesday, and then I could do like thinking for 2 days, and make another one of those more like general videos for Saturday. It kind of turned out to be that way the last 2 weeks when I had the Nazi right-wing thought in fantasy thing on a Saturday, and now this week, last week, I had the BookTube thing on Saturday. So it feels like I may just do like more general videos, reflective videos on the way we interact with books nowadays on Saturdays. We will see. I do have thoughts in that area as well. I feel like there is a need to come back to the idea of escapism and the value of escapism. I know I've talked about that before in all kinds of places when I spoke about, why we tend to like so-called morally grey characters or characters in grimdark, why they speak to us in a lot of ways. There's an idea on like the need for escapism, and I could probably map that against the claims made by Michael Moorcock in his Epic Pooh essay, which is a fantastic essay that you should go and read. He's right, except when he talks about J.K. Rowling, but he's right in a lot of ways, and still he kind of misses something there where I feel a bit more empathy might be important and necessary, and Moorcock seems to drop that idea of empathy for escapist, for the need for escapism. He drops that in favor of political, I guess, agitation, or the need for political thought, in a way. And I feel like that might be the topic to talk about, because it kind of ties back to the idea that people watch BookTube just for escapist reasons and to wind down or unwind, and don't want, very deep or very political or upsetting discussions on YouTube, but just, be shown a bunch of really cool-looking books, which I get. So that might, tie into that, where I try to be a bit kinder on the people that enjoy the more successful side of BookTube. I guess we will see. One thing that I've thought about a bit here, especially after like releasing that last video and like thinking about what I did there and how I did it, was about looking at how I do videos and looking at BookTube. A lot of BookTube I feel is very assertive. Which I guess fits into the overall idea of how YouTube works, where you go and say like this is a great book and here's why this, and you watch someone like Daniel Green or other like big booktubers. They make claims in a lot of ways, and even smaller booktubers, and are very assertive about the things they state about books. Often in a way that does not come across as like, this is my personal opinion, but more like a general like statement of fact. And I feel like I went a bit closer to that with my last video, and it sometimes makes me uncomfortable, because I'm a very questioning kind of person. It's like I don't know the answers. I try to ask questions. I try to ask the right questions. I may have convictions that underlie the way I would frame those questions, the way I would probably answer them if I had to. But I usually try to be a bit more open for answers, I guess. which may sound weird because it goes into like I'm just asking questions aside of like conspiracy theories and whatnot, which is absolute garbage. But I feel like actually, not stating facts unless you're 100% certain and can like build up a full argument for a case. And with books, that's very, very difficult because literature is rarely this easily deciphered and claims easily be made. Like, so I'm trying to do that because I feel making statements, especially when it's not just about a book, does impact a lot of other people. When I make statements about BookTube, there's booktubers out there, and they might feel insulted if I tell them that they're just like slaves to the algorithm because they don't think about what they're doing, which is not what I try to say. I try to say, like, look, we're operating in systems that are so ingrained, they are so built into our reality that it's very, very easy to, and often like useful to not think about those frameworks that like border our existence all the time. And that's sort of where I am at. So we will see, because when I talk about flashback, no questions asked. There will just be statements. Because the decline of Dan Simmons is sad, but it needs to be talked about because, as I said, there are elements in there that kind of show something that combines with like some parts of fantasy or conservatism in escapist literature that we need to be aware of. I feel that is important to talk about. We will see. Beyond that, I don't know. I kind of lost access to a lot of Audible stuff because my credit card got cancelled. Don't ask. My life is a nightmare right now. We will see how it ends. So I will probably be doing a lot of rereads until I fix that situation and can get more Audible credits for newer books, which is a bit of a shame because I really want to read the Terry Pratchett biography, A Life with Footnotes, coming out tomorrow. Well, I can't do that tomorrow, obviously, because I don't have anything to do that way. As soon as I get to that Terry Pratchett biography, however, I will definitely read that and need to talk about it. There's the idea that we'll talk about it together with Derry from Derry's Read It Before. That would be really cool. But, time is sort of the factor here. So beyond that, I'll just try to get my life back in order this week. And chances are I'll fail again, but then I can tell you all about it next week. And I already have a topic for next week's weekly Navel-Gazing. Ain't that great? Anyway, I hope you had a good week. I hope you read some interesting books. I hope you're planning to read some cool books this week or doing some really fun things this week. Try to have, a good life, which is sort of all we can ask for. And, yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the new people. Like, subscribe, join the Patreon if you feel like it. I would really, really, really appreciate that. But there's no, pressure. Anyway, see you in the next one. Cheers.